Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and welcome to this week's First Impressions. And this week we are looking at this. It's the Airfix 1:35 scale Panzer III Ausf J. Now this kit features photo etch parts, and it says flexible tracks as its special features. So that immediately indicates to me that this is most likely an Academy kit. So Academy do some of the military 135 scale kits for Airfix, but not all of them. Airfix do some of their own. It was a way originally of Airfix getting a number of good kits in the range quickly by reboxing some Academy stuff, and now Academy helps them with the development of their 135 kits. But this is in the new style Airfix box, so we know this is a fairly recent release because there's no red strip, and that's the way you can tell. The newer the release, the more contemporary release, last 18 months, 2 years or so, we've lost this red strip here that we used to have, and I do think they look better for it. The kit number is A1378, and as we look at the box, we've got a nice computer generated art image of 3 Panzer IIIs travelling along a road. The road looks a bit sort of icy and snowy, so I reckon this is probably Eastern Europe. We've got a Focke-Wulf up there and some bombers, so it gives you a general impression of tanks on the advance. It's a nice piece of artwork actually. Okay, so when we look at our box, it's a very familiar Airfix box. On this side, it tells us that the decal scheme and pack design is 2022, made in Korea, which confirms it's Academy, and it tells us here there's nothing about Caldercraft decals, so the decals will be Academy decals. So there we go, that gives us an understand. It doesn't tell us the date of the kit either, so I will check that out in a minute and we will have a look at that. The sides of the box pretty much replicate what's on the front edge, and then of course this side of the box gives us a little bit of history. So it tells us it's a very famous Second World War tank, and that it was actually only available in small numbers at the time of the German invasion of Poland, but that's certainly changed. Then we've got 2 paint options. The 6 Company, 2 Battalion, Panzer Regiment 3, 2nd Panzer Division, Russia 1942, in the familiar early war Panzer blue-grey. And then paint scheme B is 8 SS Panzer Regiment 2, Kharkov Offensive, Russia, February 1943, in winter white. And that's the one off the box art, but I'm sort of thinking I'm probably going to this. And if you look at the 2 paint schemes, you can see that we've got extra wheels on and bits and pieces like that for quicker in-field repairs, and it looks like we might have some additional armour and bits and pieces. The turret mantle looks like it's got additional armour on and things like that. So looks like we've got 2 slightly different versions that we can build, so that's great. Then we've got our paints. We've not got too many paints, so there's just 1 additional paint you need for paint scheme B, and that's 34, which I believe is white. So otherwise all the rest of the colours are the same. Obviously these are Humbrol colours, so the tyres won't be rubber, they'll be black. So you may want to add your own colours. It's a skill level 3 and it comes with 3 flying hours, which I must remember to remove when I finish building this. Right, I will go and find the age of the kit and then we can have a look at the contents. So just having had a check on ScaleMates, this was a new tool for Academy in 2020. So at the time I record this, which is February 24, this is a 24-year-old kit. So it'll be interesting to see what we find. So let's take the lid off. So inside we get the very familiar Academy plastic in this sand colour, and the layouts are the same. And we've got sprues that are either singularly bagged or double bagged, and yeah, quite a few sprues, and our instructions at the bottom. Let's have a quick look at the instructions. Right, as we look at the instructions, they look very familiar, but they are going to be different because they're the Academy instructions inside this outer face. But we've got an A4 stapled build manual. It's slightly glossy, glossier than the matte ones that you get from Airfix. I prefer the matte because I don't get the light reflection, so they're just a bit easier on the eye. Small details, it doesn't really matter. I'm just spotting it. Tells us to clean our parts, gives us a little bit of history in multiple languages, and then we have our assembly icon instructions. So then, so we're not going to have some of the features of ordinary Airfix instructions where it's red in places where you've put the last part and that sort of stuff. You won't see that. Okay, so before you start assembly of the tank, make holes in the underside of parts at locations indicated, and you can clearly see a B and an A, and although they've not told you, that relates directly to the paint scheme. So the first thing you've got to do is decide which paint scheme you're doing. So right at the back here, yeah, we've got our 2 paint schemes, and you can see there are differences. The gun barrel length, some, like I said before, some additional wheels and bits and pieces. We've got a bit of additional armour on the gun mantle there, and on the front gun mantle there, some spaced armour. So it depends on which one you want to do. Make that decision right at the start, and then you can stick with it. So then we're building up the underneath of the hull, which is all slab-sided, which I've got to say I prefer than the ones where they're sort of moulded like a bathtub, because you get distortions and things like that, and that's bitten me more than once in my modelling life. So yeah, I really like this. What it does mean though, because of the way this is constructed, see these little pieces here which make sure everything's nice and square. What that means is that you've got no way of putting an interior in that, so there won't be an interior in this kit. It's an exterior only kit, and it limits them from ever being able to do it, unfortunately. But yeah, so then we are putting on some of the peripheral bits. So we've got the escape hatch there, some of the suspension going on, the air grills for the engine compartment, and then as we flag her open, just going to check that both pages are in shot. Yep. Carrying on with more suspension struts and what have you. Then we're putting on the wheels. It's not too onerous a task, the wheels on the Panzer 3, Panzer 4. It's not like you've got the interleaf wheels and suspension on the Panthers and Tigers. So that's not too bad a job. Then we've got drive wheel going on, idler wheel going on. And we've got all the instructions there for making them up. Looks like we've got sidewall detail on the rubber tyres on these, which I always call return rollers. I don't know, someone told me that was wrong recently, and but didn't offer what they were actually called, so I'm going to continue to call them return rollers or return wheels, but that's what they do. They allow the track to return back to the back. Anyway, then we've got link and length, and that is something that's incorrect on the box, which on the box in several places it says flexible tracks. So I don't know whether, if you remember when we reviewed a previous one, we had both link and length and rubber tracks in, but that's not the case. We've only got the link and length, so you've not got any flexible rubber tracks, despite what the box says. So I think they're missing from my kit and should be in, but I wouldn't want to use them anyway, so I'm not ringing up Airfix and asking for them, because it's just something I'll put in the bin. So yeah, link and length track, which I like. That's my preferred way of building tracks, to be honest. When the kit supplies you with link and length, it reduces your build time, but also gives you a nice authentic look. What it doesn't do is allow you to go outside of the design of the kit, so you can't have a broken track for a diorama or something. But there's a plethora of aftermarket tracks available for Panzer III, so I wouldn't worry about it if you want to do that. But the length and length track, you can see we've got big sections there building up, so nice and easy to do. And it's giving out our little part numbers there, so you can see, even shows you a little diagram of how to put them together. So they're glued into place. It's not designed to move, but you know, how many people brum around their model when they're done. And then it gives you a nice little reference picture of what that should look like and how that should sit. So that's really cool. Then we're putting on the top glacis plates, and then we're putting on the mud guards along the side there. So we're building up all that lower hull, and then as we flip over step 7, we've got the back end of the mud guards. Nice, they've done those separately. They'll be nicely detailed. Then we're starting to build up the area that mounts the turret. So we've got the front glacis plate, the side plates, all going onto a plastic frame, so they'll all fit really nice and snugly. We've got the little armoured vision block closer there, the snub gun, so the snub end of the gun, so we've not got a complete gun, but you're not going to be looking in the interior, so that's fine. And the lifting hooks and the little armoured bridge there, just to stop bullets and bits and pieces going where they don't want them. So yeah, it does say assemble in numerical order starting with 1, so there's some additional things here, 1, 2, 2. So basically that has to go on first before you put the sides on, probably because they overlap, I would imagine. So then we're putting that in along with the hatches at the front there for the various operators. Then we have lamps going on, and I never really know what these things are. I always imagine they're sort of for towing hooks or something, but I don't really know what they are. And then if you're doing B, you've got the additional spaced armour that goes on there. So that yeah, that'll look really cool. And if you do models and you paint them white, they look so good when you weather them. And then we've got the spare track being mounted on the front, which was general practice. The lamps seem to have clear lenses, whereas I would have thought they would have had the covers on with a slit, but anyway. Then we've got the little support bars going in, so these are the brackets that the mudguards are suspended off, and the horn going on. Then this is an option, but Ah, right, okay. Not clear immediately, but it looks like you want to do it differently for B. I'm not sure, not quite sure what the option is here, because you've got mounting points for all of these, so they can't really go anywhere else. Unless they mean the aerial, which you could have in the up position or down in its little wooden box. Don't know. I always point out that bit there is not metal. The brackets might be, but the rest of it is wood. If you go to Bovington Tank Museum, you see it really clearly. It's just a wooden box there, so don't do metal scratching on that when you're weathering it, because it's wood. Then we drop to 11. We've got more little lamps and brackets and things going on. Then in step 12, again, do it in numerical order. That must be because some of them overlap each other. So we've got fire extinguisher, spare wheels, mudguard ends, the jack and its brackets, towing S-hooks, and then we've got these mounts for the additional wheels, which you could build those up and not put the wheels on, or put the wheels on all of them, or put the wheels on some of them, so it gives you some options, which is cool. Then in step 13 we're putting the rear plate on, which looks nicely detailed. Then step 14 we've got exhausts going on and the tow hook points, and then we've got this another option here, which is some form of armoured protection for the exhausts. So put it on, don't put it on. It doesn't say it's specifically A or B, so up to you. I might be tempted to put it on for B and leave it off for A. So, and then, oh right, okay. So is that a different option then to that? Yeah, it appears to be. So we've got two different options, but it doesn't explain what those different options are. Then we've got photo etch parts going in. So we can see that bit there. Oh, right. No, both parts are going on. Right. So even if you've got that bit on, you still put that bit on, is what I'm gathering. So that's optional, that's not. Right, okay, that makes sense. And we've got these chains hanging down, and I'm not really sure what they're for, but you do see them all the time. I guess it was for like our equivalent of bungee lines for holding equipment or something. I don't really know. Then we've got the front plate being built up, so we've got the hatches going on. Rear plate, I should say. Hatches going on, steel towing cables being mounted on, then all of that being assembled. We've got the vent covers going on, and then it's clearly telling us we've got more photo etch, shows us a little picture, but we've basically got the grills that are covering the vents going on. It says use photo etch, use instant glue. So CA to the rest of us. 17, again, we've got another option, but it's not clear to me what the option is. So what do you leave off, or if you want to? Don't know. Really don't know. It says assemble in numerical order, so you've got a top piece and then you've got additional side pieces, which is quite nice. That means you'll get better than it being moulded in one. You'll get better, crisper detail. It seems to be removing these bits here, but I'm not sure why. Is that to do with? Is that an option? I don't think so. I think that's probably for mounting spaced armour that's not included in this kit, I guess. So I think you have to remove those. Building up the gun mantle, which by the looks of it should be movable. You're not going to look inside, so you're never going to see the breech. So put it on, but don't need to worry about painting it. Then you've got two different gun types depending on A or B. And then you've got the cover which goes over the top regardless of whether you've put A or B on, and then you're mounting it on the turret. Then in step 18, we've got an option, and it does tell us what that option is, open and closed on the doors. But you can't see in. So the only reason you'd have them open is if you're going to sit a fella there so that you can't see in, but you've got someone sat on the outside looking out, which was common practice on these tanks. Then we're mounting vision blocks and lifting hooks and various bits and pieces. These little funny little dimples on the back go on. Again, not quite sure what they're for. And then we're building up the turret stowage bin and putting that together. No option to have that open, but you could always engineer it that way if you wanted. Step 20, and we're building up the cupola. Again, can be open and closed, but only if you're putting a figure in, because there's no internal detail. And then for B, you've got this additional spaced armor being built up, which goes around the outside, which will look quite cool. Then we've got more photo etch, bottom number opposite side. So that's these strips. So 7 going on the bin there and 8 going along the bottom of the bin. Okay, but that's a long strip, 8. So we'll have to see how that works. There must be some bends marked in it. And then we've got here number 5, which is that piece here. So that's a blade sight being mounted just in front of that vision block there. So that goes right in that front vision block. So it's basically a strip of metal with a point on it, which allows you to look through and know exactly dead on that you're looking at the same thing that the gun is. Then we've got our sprue map at the back. It does have numbers on, so you can use it for cross-referencing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sprues in total. Lists the unused parts, so you can take all of those off and either ditch them or put them in your rainy day box. And then decals and photo etch. And then we have our paint. So all in blue. It does clearly show you that the box is wood on the inside, so they've only painted the outside. From the ones that I've seen, and I've only seen them in museums, obviously, wasn't really there, they tend to be painted on the inside as well. So I guess they weren't painted like that in the factory, but as they got used in the field, camouflaged and bits and pieces, they would just pay over that because it's fitted. It's not something like the tools that they can remove. And then we've got all the little red blocks are decals, so that's really cool. And it says, according to photographic information, no markings appear to be carried on the front of the vehicle. Okay, and it gives us our 3 paints there: sand, gunmetal and tank grey. Then if we turn over, we have the same colours plus the addition of white. Seems to be fewer decals here. Yeah, I think there's fewer decals on this white version. But yeah, we've got some decals on the front as well and the rear here. It says, note, up-armoured mantle glacis and fitment of 50mm KWK 39 long 60 gun. Use kit parts. Okay, not quite sure what they're telling us there. The vehicle was finished in Panzer grey with a solid overpaint of white distemper. Okay, so solidly painted, which means they painted everything. So sometimes when they painted them, they did it like a camouflage and broke up the blue. Sometimes they didn't bother with behind the wheels, but it's saying everything's white. That's a really, really good base for your weathering, because all your mud and dust and muck stands out. Your chipping stands out with the Panzer grey blue. You can do some phenomenal stuff with a white painted tank. And then a couple of extra pages. That's because of the covers that Airfix put on, but gives you a nice place to list the paints you want to use and so on. That's our instructions done. So let's carry on and look at our photo etch and our decals. So they come in this little bag. All the packets in the kit are heat sealed. So I'm just going to open that up and we'll have a look at our decals first, if I can get in the bag. There we go. So decals, Academy decals, generally I don't have a problem with. They're not quite as good as the standard Airfix ones. They tend to be a little bit thicker and they tend to have a little bit more decal film, and that tends to be a little bit offset from time to time. But your colour saturation looks good. There's no register issues on these two and the national markings. Everything seems to be okay. Yeah, I don't generally have issues with the decals from Academy, so you shouldn't have any issues with these. Yeah, there you go. You can have a look at those for a minute. Brilliant. Right, let's have a look at the photo etch. So small piece of photo etch, got the Airfix logo on, and yeah, it's nicely done. Proper pure brass, and I'm just looking at this strip at the bottom, and yeah, they have put in just here and here, there's a little fold point, so you can hinge that up and that'll fit on that bin base really nicely. The hooks look really good. The photo etch has real finesse, as does the mesh. It's got the nice honeycomb mesh, which is what we'd be looking for. Yeah, very, very nice. And the blade sight again also has fold points in, so that's lovely as well. And it has a couple of dimples, but they would be bolts, so you might want to make your own bolt heads and put those on there. But yeah, photo etch is lovely, no issues with that. I'll show you that. Stop that distracting you. Right then, onto the plastic parts. Okay, sprue E, and I'm doing these in the order, reverse order, coming out of the box, so I can put them back in the order they were in. And what we've got here is a mix of parts. So we've got our gun barrels, which appear to have been slide moulded. So we've got ends, although one of them looks like it's not very central. Looks like that's offset a little bit to me. Yeah, and they'll need a bit of tidy up as well, because they're a bit rough on the end. There seems to be the seam where the two parts of the tool have come together have left a bit of seam there. So yeah, so we've got seam there, but they're not rubbish. They're okay. Just need a bit of gentle tidy up. Our two different sets of wire ropes are really nicely done. They look natural. Again, just a little bit of seam scraping and we're good with those. The rest of it is lovely and crisp. We've got nice weld detail there, which is really nicely done. The hinges look good and chunky, as they should do. I mean, they look like they could move. It's really nice, crisp moulding. It's very, very nice. I would say that the gaps between the individual plates here on the spaced armour and again here are a little bit deep. Where they've got joins, the gaps are a little bit deep, but I don't mind that. I think when you paint it all up, it sort of disappears and it makes the parts stand out, and other people might be a little bit more critical of it, but it does not detract from your model at all. And we've got nice little details there, like little hatches, little swivel covers for locking points and things like that. Very, very nicely done. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Oh, I should say, on the wooden jack block, there is no texturing, which again, some modelers won't like, other modelers will prefer it because the texturing is always massively overscale when it's done anyway, so I don't mind that at all. If I want wood grain on there, I'll paint it on and that'll look tremendous. So yeah, very nice. So that is sprue E. I'll take some pictures and you can get some close-ups, but we'll have a look at the next sprue because there's two in the bag, and then I'll photograph them both together. So our next sprue out of the bag is, where is it? A. Oh, okay, right in the middle there. So we've got, firstly, we've got the underside parts, the lower hull parts, I should say. And what I was going to say is the underside looks lovely with lots and lots of detail there. We've got weld seams. We've got, so if you want to have that coming over a ditch so you can look underneath it or something like that and see underneath it, it will look spectacular. Then we've got our slab sides, and there's some texturing on the sides to make them look like large rolled steel plates, which is really nice. And again, lovely detail. And then we've got some of our other hull parts. Again, lots of lovely weld seam detail, which is really, really nice. Covers and things are nicely depicted. Lovely crisp moulding as always. Yeah, really, really nice these. Exhausts, they've countersunk them, so you could then go in with a drill and just further enhance that if you wanted. But the exhausts themselves, yeah, quite a bit of seam cleanup on those, but nothing too taxing. Those are our spacer points which go into there. And then we've got the front glacis plate there, and then that's that little bit that we saw, which was an option and we're not quite sure why. So all the ejector pins are on the other side, so these are all the front faces, so we've got no issues. I don't see any flash, I don't see any sink. It's just a bit of seam clean up at the end of the day. That's not an issue at all. We expect that, really. So yeah, another set of lovely parts. Let me take some photos. Our next sprue is G, and we have two of these, and it's dealing with, we've got the drive wheel there, the idler wheel there. They look really nice actually. We've got some of the track, and we've got parts like the C hooks there for towing the vehicle, some of the smaller parts, grab handles, mounting blocks, the S hooks, all sorts of little bits. Some of the parts for the suspension, and the casting that goes over the drive housing there for the drive wheels. And then this will be one of the spare wheels if you're putting doing version B, and it looks really nice. Does look really, really nice. Yeah, and we've got sidewall writing. Yeah, lovely. Again, we've got some slide moulding going on here, which is nicely done. Yeah, detail is lovely, moulding is crisp. Got a little bit of sink there, but I don't know whether we'll see that or not. I have seen little bits of sink. We can see some there, for example, but that's the back. So that's going against your plate. That's the bit that looks outwards. So they have designed it with a lot of thought. I think those bits that we're not using, those are brackets for spaced armour, which around the hull, which we're not using, around the turret, I should say. And then we've got one of our mudguard brackets yeah, it's all lovely. Even the track looks really nicely done. The ejector pin marks are on the inside, so won't be visible in most places, but they are going to be difficult to clean up because this center section of the track between the horn and the outer bit of here where you've got the gap is lower. So this edge of the track actually stands proud of that centre bit, and that's where the injector pin marks are. So if you have got them between the wheels, I'm hoping they've put them so that when this is glued together, these are underneath all of the wheels, but I suspect we're going to see some of them. So you might want to put a bit of mud on your track, but they are all countersunk, so you'd have to fill them in very gently with a very small bit of folded over wet and dry sand and back. So doable, bit time consuming, but it's difficult to get around that on this sort of part. But yeah, very, very nice, no issues. Sprue H now, this is the one we've got 4 of, and you can see instantly why. It's dealing with track and it's dealing with wheels, and we've got lots of wheel halves here, which all are really nice and crisply moulded. Looks really, really good. And then we've got these here, which I'm not quite sure what they are, because these are the return rollers. So whether we don't use those and they're for something else, I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing them in the instructions. Then we've got an end of a tow rope. Again, I'm not sure that we use that, but it's been slide molded, so it's got an opening. We haven't got any thread in the kit, so I don't think we use that part. And then we've got our individual tracks, and they've put the sprue gates on the little round bit where it gets connected and it won't be seen, but you will need to clean it up to make sure it fits nicely and snugly, so that's good. Then we've got our vision blocks for the coupler, and it appears that we've got open or closed, which is nice. I missed that in the instructions. Those are smoke discharges. They could be better, but I don't believe we use them on this version anyway. That'd be for later versions. Bit more track length there, more suspension arms, and we've got lifting hooks, which are very nicely done. More spaced armour brackets that we won't be using, and some of the engine vent covers, and then the mudguard brackets. All lovely and crisp. No issues with any of that. Very, very nice. Okay, sprue B, and we've got mudguards, we've got the vents for the engine there, we've got the centre section of the upper part of the tank, the front part there, and more mudguard bits, some of the Pioneer tools, horn, rear lamp, jack in several parts, hatches, the Glacis mounted machine gun, the aerial. Okay. Well, don't know for sure. These look like they could be slide molded, but yeah, I think they possibly are. That is the bit that goes against the tank, so we're not worried about the sink. That's the bit that's going to be seen, but there's a mesh that goes over, so you won't actually see in. It's just a matter of painting inside them. Yeah. Front face, top face I should say, really nice. We've got the bases for those hooks. We've got some little raised areas, which is where we're going to place things to make sure you correct and placely, which some people don't mind, other people sand them off. I tend to sand them off. We've got nice weld detail around the edges. Same on here, lots of weld. We're going to have a part sit in there, of course, but we've got weld edges put in. Yeah, that's all good. Aerial, for me, is a bit chunky. And I might want to replace that with something a little thinner. But yeah, this, again, I think this is slide molded on the edge here. Is the box for that to go into. Yeah, and that's quite nicely done. Then we've got some toolboxes. Got nice hinges on them, really nice brackets on the end, nothing wrong with those, all the clips are good. Fire extinguisher, nice and crisp. And then we've got our mud guards, which do have ejector pins underneath, so you'll have to check to see if that's an issue. Probably not, because there is a lip on the side, but it's got a nice textured dimple pattern, which is really nice. The hinges are nice and crisp. Bolt heads are nicely done. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, no issues with that at all. And the same with this. It's all very nice and crisp. Yeah, lovely. Even those springs look pretty decent, to be honest. It's just a little bit of seam scrape up on some of the parts. Oh, we seem to have another block there. But no real issues. I can't see any sink. I can't see anything that's going to cause us a problem. It's just really, really nice. Sprue D, and we've got some of our spaced armour bits on here, the front mantle. That looks like that's twisted in the bag. We've got our gun, base of our gun here. There's a machine gun that I know we won't be using, so that's a spare, so that's nice. The rear section of the mud guards. Again, slide molded, so we've got lovely, lovely detail on the sides there. That's really nicely done. We've got our front spare glacis plate, space glacis plate there with nice hexagonal bolt heads. That's all good. Yeah, very nice. A little bit of lumpiness on that one. Don't know what that is, but there is some little speckles on there. Soon come off though, so not a problem. Everything else is nice and crisp. I'm not sure what that is. Not sure if we're using that or not. I think those are mounting points for spare wheels, aren't they? So I don't know whether we are or not. And then we've got this front spaced armour here, which does have ejector pins in, but I think it has a cover, so I don't believe that will be an issue for us. But we will see. It's very thin, so that doesn't look bad at all. We've got some handles, that's for the machine gun. The again, we won't be using these. That's for mounting your smoke bombs on. That's a different exhaust silencer type, I think, which we won't be using. So you can see there's some other variations of this this model that are covered that we're not going to be using. So later versions, I think that probably goes on the back of that by the looks of it. So you've got some decent spares for your spares box. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, yeah. I think that looks pretty cool. I can't see any issues. Once again, all very nicely done. Sprue C is our final sprue of parts, and we've got a lot of the parts here for the turret. So we've got the main turret piece, which has got some nice moulding on the top with bolt heads and weld seams and things. Then we've got the base there. Again, they've put detail on the inside, which is a bit strange because you're not going to see that, but maybe they do an interior version, but I don't see how. Yeah, nice weld detail on there as well. Has a little clip system, so when you put it in, these clips will flex and hold it into place. Underneath the it works really well, but I do tend to take them off because I prefer not to have it rubbing against any paint or anything. We've got our gun breech there, cup holder, lids, hinges are nicely done. Yeah, that is part of the bin. So that's the front face of the bin that goes against the turret, which is nicely done with rivet detail, as is the box. You've got some clips on there which are nicely done, box lid there. And then we've got our cupola with the slots for the vision blocks that we saw earlier. More slide moulding, so we've got nice openings in our various different gun parts there. I don't know if these are the ones we use or the other ones we've just seen are, but nicely done. And if not, you've got some really nice spares with weld detail and stuff on. Various brackets, the bit for mounting the gun, which should be adjustable. Not quite sure what that is. And various hatches, and then our sides, again with location points on, which if you remember in the instructions told you to remove them, but those are for some of those angle brackets we've seen for spaced armour, which we won't be using on these versions. So yeah, and again, no issues at all with any of this in terms of detail. It does say that you can have the hatches open, and if you're going to do that, you will have a couple of ejector pin marks to sort, but even though they're recessed, they're on the sort of the pads on the inside, so you can just fill that and sand it flush. It's a real simple task to do. So I've been really impressed with how they've managed ejection pin marks. Really nicely done. So there we have it, the Airfix 1:35 scale Panzer III Ausf J what's my first impressions? Well, first thing to say is it doesn't have flexible tracks, but that might just be that they've omitted from my box. So assume that you've got flexible tracks as well as link and length, because that's what I've seen before. So I think for a 24-year-old kit, that stands up really, really nicely. And it's sort of 24 years ago is sort of where I stopped building armoured fighting vehicles. So it's the standard that we were seeing at that time. So it's nice, got lots of precision, lots of detail, should go together very well. I would argue that some of it is a little bit chunky by modern standards. So where we saw the armour plates and the gap between them, that'd probably be done better now. But I wouldn't say it was an issue at all. If we think about the instructions first, well, the instructions clear. Yes, in the main, there was one or two places where it had the question mark and you weren't sure what the option was it was talking about. So I guess studying the instructions more carefully will probably resolve that. So in the main, the instructions were clear. It had nice little pictures showing you some blow-ups of what things should look like in places. Clearly told you when to be using photo etch and what that should look like on a built model as well. Picture of an actual built model. So yeah, no issues with that whatsoever. So instructions, fine. Paint instructions, good. And we've got two nice decal options and actually two variations of the same tank in the same box, which is also lovely. Then when we think about the plastic parts, yep, they are fantastic. They are crisp. There's no molding issues. Really, really good. Quality control is good. Everything in there is nice. And we've got some photo etch for the grills and things, which will make a real difference. And, you know, if Airfix would start doing that on their own kits, I think they would see a real difference in uptake of some of those kits, because the ferret that they did recently, there was a couple of areas where a bit of photo etch would have massively improved it. So just doing things like the grills in photo etch makes so much sense. But yeah, very, very nicely done. So yeah, all in all, there is nothing to grumble about in that. The link and length tracks, if you look at the box art, where you can see this slackness in the tracks, you don't get that in the length and length. They're much tighter. And to be honest, if your tracks were that slack, you'd start having problems, because you'd get a rock in between it and you'd be taking your track off. So don't follow the box art, follow the kit. The actual kit is correct. So yeah, very, very nice model overall. Deeply impressed. I don't know how accurate it is. There's one or two things that you might want to replace, like the little grab handle they've moulded in plastic. Always better to replace that with some copper wire if you can. And the aerial was a bit chunky. Otherwise, fill your boots. Now, you're not going to be able to super detail this and put an interior in. So if that's your plan, this isn't the kit. Go and have a look around and find somebody else's, maybe the mini art one, which I think you even can get an interior mini art one from them. So yeah, it's a nice kit. If you're only interested in displaying the tank from the outside and not look in and have all your hatches closed, then there's nothing wrong with this model at all. It's really, really nice. And the only way you would open those hatches is if you're putting figures in so you can't actually see in. That's the only shortcoming of the kit, really. So yeah, very nice. And I am looking forward to building this at some point. So there you go. That's my first impressions. You now know what you get in there. It's an Academy kit through and through. So you need to weigh up whether you're going to buy an Academy version or you're going to buy this one. But obviously, if you're an Airfix member, you get some benefits to buying this one over the Academy one, possibly, if you can find one. Don't know when they last had one out. Okay, thank you very much. You enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon. Bye. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.